legislative action. I'd rather see permanent fixes to the issue we face. Certainly that's true on immigration. I've made that clear multiple times. I would love nothing more than bipartisan legislation to pass the House, the Senate, land on my desk so I can sign it. And in this situation, the failure of House Republicans to pass a darn bill is bad for our security, it's bad for our economy, and it's bad for our future. So, while I will continue to push House Republicans to drop the excuses and act, and I hope their constituents will too, America cannot wait forever for them to act. And that's why today I'm beginning a new effort to fix as much of our immigration system as I can on my own, without Congress.
In a matter of days, Congress will take yet another vacation away from the nation's capital and head home to relax, recharge, and as some people would believe, escape having to make any real hard decisions on critical issues. At the very top of more than a few lists would be the immigration disaster along the southern border, and what is now a very real fear that the president is simply waiting for Washington to empty out, and he will then deliver scathing directives that would change the course of America forever. Let's welcome to MidPoint investigative reporter for CSN News, one who is at the border and is seeing what's happening firsthand and can opine on what this may indeed actually entail. Brittany Hughes joins us. Brittany, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Brittany, tell us where you are and what you're seeing here in the last 24 hours.
Well, I'm currently in Washington, D.C., but we were at the border a couple of weeks ago, and the mess down there is just, it's really tragic. It's tragic all the way around. You have thousands of people every day. One border security officer told us that it was upwards of 1,200 people a day who are crossing, and there doesn't seem to be any stemming of the tide at all. You've got women and children mostly, but then you also have a lot of single adults who are coming across, and everything that we have heard tells us that they're coming across because they believe that they're going to get a permiso, or a free pass to the United States once they get here.
When you sit and talk with them, or have you had a chance to actually talk to some of them who are coming across the border?
We did. We actually went to the border late one night, and that tends to be when the vast majority of them do cross. They come across on rafts. They're brought over by smugglers who are on the Mexican side of the border, and then they're brought across late at night in groups of anywhere between 30 and 40 to upwards of 100 people at a time, and they're dropped off in very dangerous, very brushy areas of the border. And we were able to speak with several of them in Spanish. They did not speak English, and they told us that they had been told if they came to the United States that they would be able to send their children to school and that they could be reunited with some family members that they already had over here in various places. One was from North Carolina. She said her husband was in North Carolina and that she planned to go meet him there. But she had also brought across her niece, who was only 9 years old, and she was going to send her niece to her mother in Miami. So it really depends on who you speak to, but the vast majority of them, from everything that we heard, are coming to meet family members who are already in the United States.
So you're not seeing a lot of the unaccompanied minors that we're hearing a lot about. You found a lot of families.
There are a lot of families. There are a lot of unaccompanied minors, however. But what you have to understand about unaccompanied minors is that doesn't mean that they cross the border with no one. An unaccompanied minor simply means that they cross the border without a parent or a guardian. So a lot of these kids are coming across with extended relatives that they have lived with, some of them for most of their childhood, because their parents are already in the United States. So a lot of these unaccompanied kids, especially the youngest ones, are coming across with extended relatives. Not all, but a lot. The unaccompanied minors who are coming across completely by themselves tend to be teenagers within the 13 to 17-year-old range, which again in a lot of Latin American countries would qualify you as an adult in some cases, but in the United States they are treated as minors.
A lot of the people that you talk to, let's see if we can find out what the truth of the matter is here, because we hear from a lot of different reports that they are hearing some of these children, young adults, whatever, saying, Obama will take care of us. Obama will set the way for us. Obama will get us a job. Do you hear the president's name mentioned much? Are they that knowledgeable of what's happening, or what are they being told?
Well, a lot of the things that they were told, at least those that we spoke to, they were told these things kind of through the grapevine, through hearsay, in their own countries. We didn't hear anybody say specifically that Obama would help them, but I have seen other reports from other news organizations that that's exactly what a lot of these kids say, especially. We've seen photos of some of them wearing Obama t-shirts. So whether or not the group that I spoke to had heard that President Obama was going to help them specifically, I really couldn't say. They have just heard that the United States will help them, that United States will let them stay.
Do you find them mostly in good health?
Many of them, yes, at least as far as you can tell. A lot of them were very clean when they came across, but health is something that's very difficult to ascertain, because some of them come in and they don't start showing symptoms of anything until they're already within the United States and they're being detained at one of these Border Patrol facilities. And the problem is that a lot of these detention facilities are not equipped to do in-depth health screening. So they can screen for basic things, but by the time they find out someone has a very chronic illness, a lot of times they've already been in the United States for a week, and that is what can cause outbreaks of anything from scabies and lice to something like H1N1.
Realizing, of course, that you didn't see everybody coming across and realizing there's a lot of things that can be hidden from anybody here, but did you see any evidence of gang members, MS-13, anyone coming across that looked as if they may not be actually there seeking asylum or coming from these South American countries?
When we were actually standing at the border and we had groups of people coming across, the groups that I saw were women and children. But before we actually visited the border itself, we went to one of the detention facilities where they're housing a lot of these people. The one that we went to was the station in McAllen, Texas, which is one of the most overcrowded Border Patrol stations that there is right now. And you saw a lot of teenagers, mostly male teenagers. There were a lot of family units and a lot of kids. But yes, there were a lot. They have them separated into unaccompanied minors up to age 14, which is what they call tender age minors, and then unaccompanied minors 15 to 17. And then once they're 18, they're put in the adult category. And there were a lot of rooms that were just crammed full, frankly, of unaccompanied minors who were teenagers. Whether they're members of gangs like MS-13, there's really no way of knowing. And that's one of the problems that Border Patrol is facing right now, is we really don't know.
Did you see any evidence whatsoever of militia or Minutemen? And I ask this because we had a group on yesterday, the leader of a group, the Minutemen. They claim they're looking for over 3,000 people to go from San Diego to Texas and be there as part of a militia effort to stop the kids. And I have to be very frank with you, what we talked about with him yesterday was the danger it is of having people there, militia, who are armed many times, and you have Border Patrol and you have National Guard troops all in the same area. That's almost a recipe for disaster in many ways. Did you see any evidence of militia or anybody there supposedly trying to help?
We didn't see any evidence of militia at the place that we were at. No, there was nobody on the border other than Border Patrol officers. But where we were at was a particularly difficult area. You have a park, you have Anzalduras Park, where a lot of recreational activities takes place. And so you had a lot of citizens. But the area that we went to, where the border actually was, which comes right up to the Rio Grande River, is very, very brushy and is very difficult to get down into if you don't have the proper vehicle. And parts of it are also protected. They're wildlife reserves. So you can't actually get in there unless you are with Border Patrol or another authoritative agency. So no, we didn't see anything like that. We've heard since we were there that there have been groups who have organized like that. There have also been ranchers who are very upset, but that tends to be further away from the border. So as it pertains to where we were, we did not see anything like that.
As a reporter, now that you're back home in Washington, talking about a story that everybody is mentioning, I talked about in the lead in here that the president seems to be poised right now to use his executive pen to pretty much allow the illegal immigrants coming in right now. What are you hearing? You're reporting the people that you're talking to right now, and there has to be a lot of concern about this and really a lot of anger, I would guess.
And there is, at least on the GOP side, a lot of Republicans are basically saying, look, we're already wanting to sue the president over overreach via executive actions that he took as it pertains to Obamacare. But now you've got him threatening to take executive action over the immigration issue. The problem, though, is that no one really knows exactly what that executive action may entail. So it's difficult to determine what the response is going to be. And I think that would depend on what it is exactly that he wants to do.
Now we hear from John Boehner today they're not going to talk about impeachment anymore. He says that's not going to be on the table at this point. 30 seconds left, I guess. Do you get the feeling now that the president might just be waiting for everybody, John Boehner and compatriots, to leave, and then something may happen once Washington is empty?
You know, I really am not sure what he's thinking in terms of whether or not he really wants a bill to pass in Congress or not. But what I can tell you is that as far as John Boehner is concerned, he simply says that he does not plan to take action to impeach the president. That's not something that's on his agenda. Other Republican leaders have said that that's not on their agenda. The only ones that we've really heard say anything definitively about plans to impeach the president are the Democrats, who accuse the Republicans of wanting to take such action. But we have not heard anything from any Republican leadership that says that that's what they plan to do.
On it goes. Brittany Hughes from CNS News. Wonderful job working at the border. Thank you so much. We will talk to you again. Later on this hour, the real war on women, much more dangerous and dastardly than you could possibly imagine, right here on MidPoint.